Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm your host, Amanda Lamb. In today's deep dive conversation with WRAL reporter Keenan Willard, we're talking about the fact that there have been more students dying by suicide at NC State, 2 cases recently. This brings the total number of suicide deaths since the beginning of the semester to 7. And it's not just happening here in our own backyard, it's happening at colleges across the country. Many people believe it's indicative of a mental health crisis among college students nationwide. Keenan, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. And everything that you just said reflects the conversations that we've had with experts, with family members, trying to get our heads around why this appears to be happening to college students.
Yeah, it's so hard. And I'm a parent of a college student, so it is something that, we all are concerned about. These stories are tragedies, each and every single one. So first of all, break it down. What do we know about these 2 recent incidents that happened within 24 hours of each other?
So it was the first one Wednesday night, a body found by Lake Raleigh on NC State's Centennial campus, and that was recovered. And then just hours later, around noon on Thursday, at a residence hall, Sullivan, on NC State's Central campus, NC State police found another body. And that student was never identified. The only one that we did get ID'd, and this was because they're a student athlete, unfortunately, was the body of 21-year-old Ben Solis, who was on the rifle squad at NC State. His body was the one that was found on Wednesday night at Lake Raleigh.
And I know you have had the opportunity to speak with Ben's family, which is amazing that they are strong enough right now to talk, given the unimaginable grief that they're obviously dealing with. Tell me, what did they tell you about their son, and did they see any warning signs?
The most strong message that they delivered in that conversation, and as you said, one of the most powerful talks I've ever had in my life, in that moment of grief with them just 48 hours after the loss of their son. The overwhelming takeaway was that by all accounts, nothing seemed to be wrong on the surface. But even in conversations that they had about, them pressing, how are you doing? How are you feeling? They said that they spoke with him 2 hours before he took his own life. And in that phone conversation, he said that he was fine and that he had long-term plans. He was on the rifle team at NC State, but he was also a junior Olympian and had dreams of competing for Team USA one day. NC State's actually ending its rifle program, so he was going to transfer to West Virginia University to keep competing in college. His dad just told me he was a really happy kid with a huge circle of friends and was very loved, and that has made this tragedy for them feel so much more difficult to understand.
Absolutely, because they don't have any real warning signs or red flags. And I thought what was really interesting in your reporting, you talked about the fact that he had mandatory sessions with the rifles team psychiatrist. And again, for some reason, though, whatever he was going through was not detected.
Part of the difficulty, again, it's just like issue on top of issue here when we talk about the very complicated subject of mental health for college students. But one thing that is not an easy fix, he had access to mental health resources, according to his parents, whether, the regular ones that are offered on campus in terms of there are counseling centers or online therapists that are available to the student body, but also as an athlete, he had access to additional mental health help and mandatory sessions. They weren't able to say, what subjects were covered in them or how often they were happening, but they knew it was there for him to have access to. And so it's not something that's so easy as just hitting a big red button and making this available, and that would solve this issue. And so it's another part of this for them where they're just trying to get their heads around how this happened.
Absolutely, absolutely tragic. Well, we will be back after the break with more from WRAL's Keenan Willard about what NC State and other schools are doing to try to address mental health issues that can lead to death by suicide. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm talking with WRAL's Keenan Willard about several recent deaths by suicide at NC State. Keenan, I know on Friday, after these incidents were reported, the school once again held a mental health day, which they've done before. Tell me about, what that is and what the goal is.
In this case, it wasn't, universities, unfortunately, across the country have this tactic that they have started implementing whenever it seems to be a moment of real mental health crisis on campus. They'll have full blown mental health days where classes are not being held and students are encouraged to focus on themselves. Both Thursday afternoon and evening, and then on Friday, the university had drop-in counseling available, and it was in multiple locations. It was for the whole day on Friday, just areas where they were sort of marketed as a safe space. It wasn't something that you needed to go through the scheduling system. Students were able to just walk in, go to these designated areas, and there would be someone there to talk about what they're going through, what the campus is going through in the community, and especially those who new students like Ben Salas or the other 6 NC State students who have taken their own lives since August. It was just supposed to be another resource on top of the ones the university has tried to implement, like more online therapists. And it's something that actually happened again yesterday or on Monday. They offered in the student union even more drop-in counseling. So that was a resource that they wanted to do on top and offer on top of the ones that already exist. It is just a conversation now about how do you address something, and this is what the parents of Ben Salas told me. How do you address something when the person who's suffering doesn't feel comfortable about talking about what they're going through?
Yeah, I mean, that is really the big issue here. And it does occur to me, I mean, what do Ben's parents think? Do they have any ideas?
Sincerely, the actual words of his father were, at large, something is affecting these kids and making them think that this is the only way out. And it's something that he doesn't understand because from every aspect on the outside, his son did not reveal what he was struggling with even 2 hours before he made that decision. And it makes it exceedingly difficult because it's probably never going to be known. They'll never have an understanding of why this took place. It's just something now that I think one of the big takeaways that I had from that conversation was what they're trying to do out of this moment. And a big reason why they felt comfortable talking with me, because they wanted to share who Ben was, but also because of what they want to do to try and help other students going forward.
Yeah, let us know what is that. I know they want a legacy for him, and they also want to create some awareness. So what are they talking about doing?
Well, he was obviously so involved in the rifle community, in the Junior Olympics organization and Olympics organization, but also in college, of course. And they have an understanding that this isn't just a student body specific issue. It's also, unfortunately, it seems to be a rifle community issue across the sport. They said young athletes have been taking their lives, people who were poised for very successful careers and seem to have the world ahead of them, like their son. And as a result, to keep Ben's name alive, but also to try and help others, they want to establish a foundation and have it be focused towards mental health support for young athletes, something where it might take the shape of just getting donations to give to existing causes or hold events, but also to try and create some sort of conversation and safe space for young athletes where they might feel comfortable with sharing these thoughts that even in this case, didn't feel able to share with their own parents, and they end up making a permanent decision.
And it is just so amazing that these parents, just a couple days out from this tragedy, are able to not only talk about it, but think about what's next and think about creating awareness and a legacy for their son. It's just the strength, I can't even imagine where it's coming from. And finally, you mentioned this in the first half, but this is not unique to North Carolina. It's not unique to NC State University. It's happening in other parts of the country, in other colleges.
And it leads to all sorts of conversations. The one thing that Ben's parents talked about was, is this the manifestation and a symptom of being the pandemic generation for these kids who were in such a formative moment when the world shut down and they all had to retreat behind their computer screens for what should have been their junior and senior year of high school. And it did some sort of, that lack of socialization and isolation caused some sort of just massive generational impact to mental health. That's one thing they're concerned about, because we don't know what the answer is. We don't know how to counteract that. And it's something that appears to be in this age range hitting college students very hard, as you said.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's something we will continue to talk about as unfortunately we continue to try to figure out why these tragedies happen. Keenan, thank you so much for sharing this touching story with us and helping us to create more awareness about this very important topic. And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and making us part of your morning routine. If you like what you're hearing, please rate us on Apple Podcasts or on whatever podcast app you use. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email waiting in your inbox every morning with Triangle News events and headlines to get you ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.